Hi guys, how you all doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thursday afternoon here in the office at St James's Park. Before I get into the video and today's update, if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. Really appreciate the new subscribers I've had over the last couple of months. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up to the video if it's the sort of video that you want from me moving forward, and leave your comments below. Right, on to the video. Here I am, St James's Park yet again. Can't believe how busy I've been these past 3-4 weeks. I mean, Newcastle are away, Singapore, South Korea out the way. They decided not to send me, and here I am, stood here talking about transfer news every day. I've also been busy over in Sunderland as well, but you guys don't want to hear about that. On to today's news, the saga involving Alexander Isak, and you've probably noticed on our social channels and on our TV offering on Sky Sports News today, we brought you the news this morning, the new news that Alexander Isak is not here in the northeast. He is actually over in the Basque region in Spain, in San Sebastian, training at the Real Sociedad training ground. Now, the optics of this, not good, doesn't look good. If you're a Newcastle fan, I'm sure a lot of you are screaming into your tablets or your phones or your televisions right now saying, why are you training over there in Spain when you could be either A, with the team in South Korea, or B, at the Newcastle United training ground. Now, I'm going to try and add a little bit of context to this to try and make it a little bit easier for you guys to stomach. So Isak, first of all, has a team of people around him. He has physicians, sports scientists, people who he relies upon and he's had for a long time. Eddie Howe has spoken about Isak's team a lot. Look, it's not unusual, this. High-level sports people have teams, they've got personal trainers, they've got people they rely upon and trust. And Eddie Howe's spoken about this at his news conferences before. Whenever Isak's got a knock or a niggle or even a more serious injury, he quite often goes for treatment away from the UK, whether that's in Spain or Germany or Sweden or wherever it may be, and he meets his team of guys. And I'm aware of him travelling to Spain before for treatment. I'm sure if you guys think hard enough or search it online, you'll see that yourself. So I'm not that surprised he's away with his team. Remember, Newcastle, all the playing squad, the backroom staff, Eddie, all his backroom staff, the physios, the club doctor, everyone involved at Newcastle is away in South Korea at the moment. So there's not really too many people left for Isak to be training with or recovering with. So it kind of makes sense he's with them. Now, you guys will be saying, well, hang on, why are you recovering in Spain when you could be recovering here in Newcastle? But look, I think that's where the base is. I can see, not the bases, sorry, I see that's where the guys are based. I can see exactly why there's a frustration with that and why he got on a flight, why it was okay for him to get on a flight to Spain, but he wasn't able to get on a flight to Singapore, then South Korea. That was one of the reasons, was the fact long haul flight would have helped his injury, his minor thigh injury that the club quoted just over a week ago. So I can see why you're frustrated, but I can also see why I can see why it's not the worst idea. Like, take him away from the noise, take him away from people talking about it non-stop here in Newcastle. A circuit breaker for him, I would suggest, being over there away from here. What would be the point of him sat at home here in Newcastle, popping in there to the training ground when it's pretty much a ghost town, there's skeleton staff there, when there's no one there, where he's going to get the best treatment and help over in Spain. Now, I've heard a lot of the comments, people are outraged by this and think it's disgusting. Remember, he's not training with Real Sociedad. He's not trying to engineer a move to Real Sociedad. He's had his time there. He's got friends, he's got people he trusts. He has got good relationships with, or good relations with his former club, and they've allowed him to use their facilities. Remember, they're not there themselves, they're away in pre-season training, Real Sociedad, so it's not like he's training with his old teammates there. He is training on his own, recovering on his own with his team. So yeah, look, it doesn't look great the fact he's not here. I know you guys probably would have wanted him every day in at the training ground. I'd heard on Monday that he hadn't been here for a few days. Didn't look into it too much. I wasn't that surprised. I would have been more surprised if he'd been going in by himself every day. look, perhaps he probably needs to get not just his body but his mind in a better place ahead of the new season. The longer this goes on, the more chance there is of him remaining a Newcastle United player, in my opinion. And if Newcastle aren't able to bring in a high level striker, the likes of a Sesko, an Ekitike, do they allow Isak to leave? I think there's a real question mark over that now. Of course, they said they don't want him to leave, but there will come a point where they'll probably have to let him leave. But I think they would only allow that to happen if they've got a high level replacement lined up, and at the moment that's not looking likely. They're in competition with Manchester United for Sesko. We've seen what's happened with both Cunha and Mbumo when it comes to Manchester United. They can offer more wages. It's Manchester United. I know they're not playing in Champions League this season, but look, they're seen globally as a bigger club than Newcastle, sadly, and that's one of the things. And it feels very much at the moment, the players Newcastle are missing out on, it feels like players are still looking at Newcastle as a stepping stone. They're not looking at Newcastle as the end destination. High level players, they don't see Newcastle as the destination where they want to end up, which is a shame. And that's why Newcastle are losing out to Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool and Real Madrid. They've lost out players to all 5 of those clubs this transfer window, and I think that's because players still see Newcastle, 1 because of the geography, 2 because of the wages, and 3 because of just their standing in world football. They're not seen on the same level by these players as a Man City or a Man United, and that's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight. It's probably not helped by the fact you've not been able to add these last 3 transfer windows, and it feels like things have just stagnated a little bit off the pitch. Now on the pitch they're flourishing. You guys are in the Champions League this season. Eddie's done an incredible job. The players have done an incredible job, but I think just the eyes of the world, they see Newcastle have stepped up from where they were 3-4 years ago, but they're not quite at that level. I think until you're qualifying for the Champions League year after year after year, until you've got a revenue akin to Manchester City or Liverpool, where you can go out and rival them for transfers and transfer fees and wages, Newcastle are going to be seen like this for players. And I think this window has really encapsulated that. It really has put that out there, that this is how João Pedro sees Newcastle. He prefers Chelsea. This is how Mbumo sees Newcastle. He prefers Manchester United. This is how Housen sees Newcastle. He prefers Real Madrid. And so that appears to be the case, and difficulty here, but that is the current situation at the moment. So I just think Newcastle, you can't go into the season, a Champions League season, fighting to do well in the Premier League again, trying to raise the profile of the club and trying to make sure you're right up there every year. You can't do that without a high level striker, and that's why I think it's going to be difficult. If you don't get Sesko, and of course Newcastle, we know Newcastle are interested, we know Leipzig want £65 million plus add-ons. I know what you guys will say, why don't they just go out and offer that? To that question, I don't know, because I suppose, can they then do it? Well, they offered a similar sort of money for Ekitike and it fell through. Newcastle will be getting noises from the agent as to what the player wants. They won't want to make themselves look silly. They won't want to hang themselves out there again. I don't know. Lots will be going on behind the scenes, but yeah, the longer it goes on, the closer we get to the end of the transfer window, the less chance, in my opinion, there is of Isak going, because you can't let him leave with a week or 2 to go without a replacement, because then you're absolutely scrambling. I think next weekend is crucial. Eddie, the squad all get back on Monday. Isak will obviously be due back in training. Eddie will have a chance to speak to him face to face. It must be very frustrating for Eddie out there right now in South Korea, not able to address the situation face to face with Alexander. Of course he'll be in contact with him, and I'm sure there'll have discussions and messages taking place, but it must be so difficult when he's not able to have that one-to-one contact. And I'm guessing those meetings are going to happen, those face-to-face meetings are going to happen next week once Eddie gets back. So perhaps maybe this week and a half, 2 weeks, Newcastle being away, gives everyone a little breather, a bit of breathing space, a bit of time to reflect, and maybe Isak comes back and not as frustrated or as angry a place next week, and he'll maybe have come to terms with the situation more. Newcastle might have thought about it and come to some kind of resolution, give him a little bit more money, placate him. I don't know, I just think time's a good healing in these situations. I'm not saying the Isak sale thing is over, because if Liverpool come in and offer 150 or 140 or 130 million pounds, Newcastle have a huge decision to make. But as it stands right now, Liverpool have not made an offer, and I just don't believe Liverpool are going to make a formal offer until they get people out the door. They've still got Nunez, they've still still got Elliott, they've got guys they need to get off the wage bill. If Liverpool are really serious about having him right now, they would have come in for him with a bid in this last week, and they haven't. So it feels like they're still trying to move players on before they come in. It's completely unsettled Isak. His head's been turned. It's unfair on you guys. It's a really, really delicate, difficult situation, but there's going to come a stage where if it carries on like this, Newcastle are going to have to dig their heels in and say, look, you're staying. I know you guys will say, why don't they do that now? But in my opinion, you don't want a player who's unhappy. But there will come a stage where if there are no formal bids made, what is all this? What are we talking about? Why are we even here discussing this? If Liverpool don't show the colour of their money, then this is all irrelevant in my opinion. So Isak over there in San Sebastian training. I know the optics of it aren't good, but I can understand it's taking him away from the situation here. Maybe gives him a bit of time to reflect. Hopefully next week things are looking a little bit better. I wouldn't say this is a black and white situation. I think a lot can happen. It's a grey area, and I just think there's a lot that's going to happen between now and the closure of the transfer window. But I don't think this one goes to the end. I don't think this is the sort of sale that Newcastle make on transfer deadline day or transfer deadline day -1. They just can't do that. They need to make sure they have a top level replacement in first, and at the moment that's proven very difficult. So that's where we are today. I just want to add a little bit of context, colour to that, just to try and make you realise it's not quite as bad. It's not like he's refusing to be here. Just think he probably thinks it's better for him to be here at the moment. He will be back here in Newcastle next week and to meet Eddie Howe and club officials. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.